All right, welcome to Virtual Lunch in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe. I am Marlis Arnold, your host, and today we have a special guest coming up in just a few minutes, joining us all the way from Italy. So it's not really lunch for him, it's probably more like dinner time. But we are here today, and if you are joining us for the first time, welcome to Virtual Lunch. We do this every Tuesday in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe. We're broadcasting on both Facebook and YouTube, so wherever you're joining us from, welcome. I know we also have some regulars, so go ahead, please introduce yourself if you'd like in the comments and tell us where you're from, and so that way we can kind of get acquainted a little bit. I want to go through just a few quick things before we bring our special guest on. But first of all, I want to talk about our theme today is to develop a broader perspective. So basically what we need to do at this point is move away from, when you have a telescope, when you've got a telescope and you're looking through a telescope, you've got a very narrow focus, right? And when you have a panoramic lens on a camera, you can see like the whole Grand Canyon all at once. So I know in this industry, we've kind of been a little bit in the telescope mode. I know I have. My husband, Alan, who's behind the scenes, those of you who join us regularly know this. Alan is currently home because he is in charge of events at a hotel, so he is no longer working. We both are in the events and trade show industry, so we do tend to have a little bit of a telescope perspective. So we're wanting to broaden our perspective today, and so that's one reason why I brought in an international guest for us. So we're going to go over some different things here. Tina from Large Printing. Hi, Tina. Tina's one of our regulars. And another one of our regulars, Rama, who actually both Tina and Rama have been guests on the Virtual Lunch. If you've missed it, go back to the archives and check it out. Rama is here from not so sunny San Diego today. Well, hang in there. I'm sure it'll be sunny again soon. But thanks to both of you for joining us and everybody else who's here. I want to go over some things first about, I heard a new concept this week called thoughtful marketing. And I think this is such a great term and a great concept. And Alan and I actually caught a couple of examples of some commercials on TV, and he's going to share those links here in the comments in just a second. But the first one is Clorox, which of course Clorox business is booming right now whatever they can produce with the hand sanitizer and wipes and all that kind of stuff. But they've partnered with the website NextDoor. And they're teaming up to do a partnership of neighbors. So neighbors helping neighbors. So it's like an app where, like, if an elderly person needs help, they can post and then somebody will see that and they can go, run an errand for them or whatever. But that's thoughtful marketing. That's doing something. So if you go watch the commercial, you see it's not so much about Clorox. It's about how they're helping people and how they're doing this partnership. The second example is US Foods, which if you've ever worked in the restaurant industry, then this is the link for that one. US Foods is one of the suppliers that provides food to restaurants and schools and all that kind of thing. They're a big, giant food service company. And so they did an ad where aimed at small business restaurant owners. They've got a free, what they call it? Reopening kit that they're offering to restaurant owners. And so their commercial was all about that, as opposed to a 800-pound gorilla retailer that's doing commercials that's all about them and how fabulous they are. So, the idea of thoughtful marketing is how could you listen and speak to your client or your prospect's needs and not just talking all about yourself. And I think, again, back to the telescope versus the panorama view, looking at how can you really take that whole 360-degree view. I want to also, Alan, go ahead and put up the Together Again link. There is an expo coming up next month, a real live in-person expo for our industry. It's called Together Again, and it's going to be in Orlando, but they're also going to have an online element. and it's totally free. So I recommend go check it out, sign up. If if you're not in the Orlando area, you're not going to be in the Orlando area, you could still do the online. That's what I'm going to do. But it's going to be all about how do we get our industry restarted. And so I think that this is a really good thing to try to bring people together in the industry, obviously together again, and make it so we're all going in the same direction, because there's so many of us who are frustrated, who are struggling. And I think if we can work together, we can figure out our way through all of this. Meanwhile, in Vegas, Alan, I'll let you put that link up. In Vegas, they have reopened. They are doing things. They're getting going. There was actually a really good article. I can't remember until the link pops up here where it was from, but they're doing, if any of you remember back after 9/11, it's from Smart Meetings, back after 9/11, when you would go to Vegas and you'd be standing in that massively long line at the airport, they had the on camera, they had the celebrity videos about, the 311 bags and the new security rules and stuff. I can remember the Blue Man Group did one and all these different, well, now I guess they've got celebrities actually doing videos about the new precautions and how things are going to work. So they're very clever about that. They also, of course, have stylish masks available for sale in the hotel gift shops. And, so they are doing some creative things to try to make it a little less ominous, I guess you could say, about what's going on. But anyway, so that's kind of clever. Oh, I see Jennifer is here from Exhibits. So welcome, Jennifer. Good to have you here. And then I also have a link for the Expo Network did a survey. I'm going to put that up. And what's interesting about this, when you go look at the results, you can choose, it's a global survey, and you can choose your region. So like you could see the overall results, and then you can click on just the Americas, and all of the charts will shift a little bit and give you the actual percentages just for our region. But it's no great surprise. The biggest threat, I'm not going to spoil too many things for you, so you can go look it up. But the biggest threat that everyone stated was the biggest threat to meetings, that is the restrictions on travel, or the hesitation for people to travel, which is why we're looking at so many things need to be, the combination, the blended of virtual and in person, like the Together Again Expo is going to be. So that was one thing. And then the other thing, the other statistic that I thought was interesting was that the majority tended to think that we would be returning to pre-pandemic strength, I guess you could say. I don't remember what the exact wording was, in 2 to 3 event cycles. So, like if it's an every year event, it would be 2 to 3 years to really gain steam. And then if it's an every other year event, then it might take, 4 or 5 years to gain steam. So anyway, that's how I took that. Hey, Al from Genesis Exhibits. Welcome. Glad to have you here today. So it looks like we've got some first timers. So, or at least Al, I don't think we've had you in the chat before if you've been here. So welcome back. And then Alan, go ahead and put up the federal policy priorities. This is from Meetings Mean Business. This one's a PDF. I think it's going to be a pretty long, ugly link again. But if you're in Facebook, that link will be there in the comments. If you're watching from YouTube, I will get it put up later on the comments in YouTube as well. But they talk about incentives. Yeah, I warned you. It was a long one. They talk about incentives to get the travel and meetings business going again. Some things like a meetings and events tax credit, a travel tax credit, so they've got a lot of different things in there of proposals to Washington about how we can get our industry going again. And then the one last link that I want to share before we go ahead and bring our guests on is from iMeet. They do a weekly planner confidence index. And so this particular link is, this is a comparison. So you can kind of see how it's transitioning over time, which I will tell you is just the perspective is stretching farther out as to when meetings will get going again. But anyway, it's kind of interesting to see, since they're tracking this every week and they're doing this survey, they can see week to week how the thought and the feelings are transitioning. So anyway, so there you go. But as I've been teasing, we have a guest here all the way from Italy. So I am going to bring him on here in just a second. All right. We have Marco Barozzi. Is that a good Italian way to say it?
Very good. Very good.
So, Marco, I really want to thank you for taking some time out of your evening and being with us here today at Virtual Lunch in the Cafe. So let's talk just a little bit about what's going on, because I know Europe is a little bit ahead of us, and there's already been some events, I think, held. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, let's talk what's actually going on in Italy, and then we'll kind of broaden it out a little bit.
Okay, Marlis, thanks. First of all, thank you for inviting me. Pleased to be on your virtual lunch, which is mostly, for me, it's mostly dinner, but it's okay. But, yes, we have good news here in Europe on reopening dates for events, which is actually have been coming out the last past week, let's say. And most of the major exhibition markets in Europe, including France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, and also smaller countries, have now set dates for the reopening of the exhibition. Italy is no exception. The only difference we have is about, apparently countries, are making differences in terms of limitations, not just in terms of date, because apparently most of the events will reopen in September. Switzerland, for example, has been the latest to announce that, events over 10,000 people will be permitted from September 1st. Germany also, depending on the various regions, for example, in Lower Saxony, you have a reopening date, which is 31st of August. And this, I think it's important to understand that all the moves, coming in these past few weeks, I think were, come from the fact that there was the separation of trade show from other types of mass gatherings announced, right, also in accordance with the World Health Organization. So I think this was very important for the reopening of exhibitions in the next few months, But here again, Germany has differences now. There's a concern, there's some concern about a second outbreak in a region north of Germany, for example. The French government has announced that trade shows and exhibitions are scheduled to restart as of September 1st, but are subject to a new assessment of the epidemic situation, of COVID-19. Spain, the same. I think Spain is, Italy is a bit ahead of the other countries. And
really?
Again, yes. But all these countries, will start again basically from September. The only thing which is still, in my opinion, missing is that there's lack of clarity in terms of specific terms and conditions, about their reopening. And some countries like the UK, for example, they have still no plans, but they say they will reopen, but they have no plans. While in Italy and Spain, you have no limitations. And in Switzerland or in Germany, for example, you have limitations depending on the events and maybe on the region. So I think in this case, governments are not really understanding the problem that the exhibition and events industry has. Understand maybe the full picture, but not in detail going into each market. So I think that's probably one of the problems.
Well, and that's been painfully obvious throughout this whole process, that the government really doesn't considering we are such a massive part of any country's economy. It's amazing that they really don't have a clue what trade shows and conventions and meetings really involve. And so, yeah, I know we're struggling a lot with that here too. And like you've got every country doing different things. We got every state doing different things.
Yeah, but exactly. I mean, if you think about travel, now, I mean, in the European Union, I mean, frontiers have been reopened again. But if you think, about flights and having, I mean, you fly with 300 people, but then you put a limitation on those that who have to go to an event, it doesn't make really any sense. I mean, because you fly with 300 people, probably you have the same risk, as you have, I mean, in entering an event, in my opinion, and I was reading, just 10 minutes ago, I was reading an article, which was talking just about that, so there's still some lack of clarity about specific terms and conditions that they're reopening. And I'm sure that this is going to cause troubles both to organizers and to exhibitors and to visitors, of course. I mean, companies, I mean, you have to travel, you have to make your plans. In Spain, for example, in France, we have there is a big show, big food show, Cial, in October. And actually, there is no news about any, cancellations or anything. So the show is expected to go ahead. In Italy, we have another big show, construction, in November, which has been reprogrammed from September, but still going on. While we have other shows that have decided to go digital for this time, but planning to go to physical again. In February 2021. So, there's a mix of things. Spain still lacking decisions because, as I said, they are late probably than the rest of the other countries. Well, Germany, of course, is the first, I mean, to reopen, I guess. And but Spain still, we work with Spain, and there's still some decisions to be made from Barcelona, from other countries. Valencia was publishing, for example, the Fair of Valencia was publishing that they would reopen in September, but still it was not clear under which conditions, specific terms and conditions. So, it's kind of difficult at this very moment. And I think this lack of clarity may cause cancellations also from part of the exhibitors. Because I mean, if you have to participate, you exhibit in a show. I mean, if I don't have a clarity, even if the safety and security are guaranteed, etc. But how can how can I plan to go, or can I confirm my participation?
Right. Well, all the exhibitors are in limbo because, I mean, you've got a timeline of things you need to do to ramp up for the show. Absolutely. And if you don't know, I mean, you kind of don't want to get too far. Like here, we had shows canceling this spring, actually, as exhibitors were there on site setting up. Well, that's really expensive to the exhibitor because they've already spent all that money. They've already shipped everything. They got their people there, and then they get canceled and have to go home. So there does come this point where the show organizer really needs to make that call. But you feel for them because you don't, nobody wants to cancel if they don't have to. Exactly. So it is a really, really awkward situation. So what are do you know the different countries? Like what's the number, the magic number of people that are being allowed at their gatherings?
For example, Italy and Spain and France, Italy and Spain, there's no limitations. Switzerland, they have limitation, but they will be allowed after September 1st to have more than 1,000. So Germany too, I mean, I think they have no limitations as far as I know at this point in time. France, as I said, they will probably have to assess. They're subject to new assessment of the COVID-19, about the COVID-19. They're expected to reopen in September, but they have to, to verify, to see if there's the new assessment of the epidemic, how it goes, etc. But there are some countries, as I said, with no limit. Finland, for example, a small country, has the restriction also starting from September, for example. So, as I said, it depends. Like UK, I mean, they have no plans yet. I mean, as far as I was reading on LinkedIn or other literature, or the articles, I mean, they still have no plans and they don't know what's going to happen. At least starting from September, they hope they will reopen. but still, I mean, I think there's still uncertainty about, as I said, about the terms and conditions. So I guess this is like information that's going to come in the next few weeks. I know that, for example, UFI, which is the Global Association of the Exhibition Industry, is publishing some very interesting thing. I will probably pass you a link to this, which is very interesting about the market allowed, to reopen their markets. And they have this, I saw just, some time ago. I mean, they have this nice charts which shows exactly the markets which go like have the green light and the other having the yellow light, and some other having the red light So still, and that's something. I mean, I can pass on to you. Maybe you can share with your, with the people and following you actually.
Great. Yeah, that would be very helpful. I hadn't seen that yet, but I know UFI has been really good about not only fighting for the industry, but also communicating to the industry. I just want to throw out, if anybody's got questions for Marco, please go ahead and type those in the comments, and that way we can have him answer to the best of his abilities. I know.
Yeah, absolutely. You can say that again. Yes.
But so then, as far as the precautions, it's within each country. So it's pretty much, it's like if you've got an event in a specific country, you've just got to dig in and research what that particular country is doing, what their timeline is.
I would say that that's better. But every organizer I now see in Italy, for example, they are they're following all the guidelines and protocols. Both, I mean, UFI is given, I mean, even the framework for this, I mean, from all the safety and security protocols. So I guess almost all organizers now are pretty much aware and giving all the exhibitors and visitors the right instructions, and they are actually ready. There is an hashtag I was reading the other day from a UK movement which says, "We are ready." The hashtag was "We are ready." So I think that, yes, we are ready. But the thing is, as I was saying, I think there's still some lack of clarity regarding some specific terms. Maybe this will need to be clarified, I guess, in the next few weeks or months, because now, I mean, the summer is coming, but still you may have event like in Germany, for example. But as I said, Marlies, one of the very good things was this separation that was made of trade shows from other types of mass gathering. That was really important for us and for the industry.
Yes, and I know that's one thing that a lot of the associations here are also fighting for as well.
Absolutely. For example, just let me give you an example. Oktoberfest, which you should, this big event taking place every year. Now, the Oktoberfest will not take place this year.
Right.
So, I mean, that makes a difference, with the other type of B2B or trade shows, that you have. So those obviously can't reopen, maybe under certain conditions, but the Oktoberfest will not be celebrated this year.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to be, like you said, it's going to continue for a while to be week by week and trying to figure it all out as we go along. And I think that's part of what makes it so stressful is if we all knew there was like one solid date and we were looking forward to that one specific date, I think we could all focus a little better. But it's this ambiguity of.
Yeah. It's correct. It's correct because at this point in time, I feel even the organizers, are pretty much, how should I say, sick and tired of not having maybe a clarity about this, and we're still waiting for the guidelines for the government. I know in Spain, for example, they were still now. I think they know what's going on, but they were waiting until a couple of weeks ago, and so it was not yet clear, and this was causing frustration, of course,
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, literally, we are all in this together because we're all feeling, whatever country we're in, we're feeling it.
Definitely. And I think in the US, I was obviously reading all the news from there. And also the CEIR is doing a very good job, in terms of supporting and providing details and fairs and events. So in case you need Marlies, I can also provide you, because I'm in touch with all the institutions here, and we have a list of all the events canceled and postponed up to a certain date. So if you ever, require to know which event in Europe are, on or canceled, etc., we can help on that.
Is that a live list, like a web link that you can share that's updated?
Well, UFI is publishing one. In Italy, there's another one published by the Italian Trade Commission. And each country is doing that. And I think overall information, UFI also is providing.
Yes.
In Italy, we have, but also the good thing is that because of the Italian Trade Commission, they participate in various events, many events internationally. So they obviously update regularly the list of events canceled and postponed. So this is good. I'm checking on that. Most of them I know, but I'm checking on them regularly. So
yeah, well, it is hard to keep up.
In America, the US, it would be crazy. To keep up. But I saw something the other day about that list. I think Event MB, like Giulio Solaris and those people, they're still providing list of those events, etc. So, well, it's you can do that.
Well, definitely. Any links you have like that, please pass them on, and I will make sure that they get put out there, and we'll share them on future virtual lunch. Sure. And yeah. So, well, Marco, thank you so much. I don't see any questions coming in from the audience, but what's the best way for people to reach you? Is it to just connect with you through LinkedIn, and if they have additional questions about Europe?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm available. I'm ready. If they want to write to me, LinkedIn for sure. Or I LinkedIn. You also have my email address, if the case, or you just contact me and I will respond.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you, Marco. We'll let you get back to your evening plans. But we definitely appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. I thank you very much for inviting me. Really been a pleasure.
All right. Thanks. Okay. So, Rama, thank you. Glad you enjoyed that. Yeah, I knew Marco was going to have some good insights. And, as we all know, there's not a lot of answers at this point, but he definitely has, boots on the ground. He knows what's going on. So we definitely appreciate his perspective. But I just to wrap up, I just wanted to come back to this whole broader perspective idea of trying to see things from your client's perspective. And I think, like I said, the whole telescope versus panorama, we tend to get very myopic sometimes. And then sometimes we think we know what the client's perspective is, but we may not have an accurate view of that. So we need to always be open to new ways of doing things. I know everybody's been scrambling lately, or a lot of people that weren't familiar with the virtual world have been scrambling to add in that virtual component. And so, there's been some good and some bad. Last week, I actually sat in. did United Fresh Live, and they did a phenomenal job with their all virtual show. So it was very exciting to see how some of the exhibitors got really creative with that. But, there's so many possibilities, and we need to just be able to open our minds and look at these new perspectives. And yes, just yesterday, I was listening to a podcast interview with Guy Kawasaki. If you're familiar with, he's written a bunch of different books, but he started at Apple many, many years ago, and now he's evolved. He's an angel investor, and he is involved with Canva, the website Canva. But he said that you can't figure out what to do by asking the customers what they want. Like he was talking about at Apple. He said, if we had asked them what they would have wanted way back in the day, they would have said they wanted a faster, cheaper, better version of an Apple IIe or whatever, and instead of saying, oh, we want the Macintosh and all that it has to offer. So you can't necessarily ask the customer what they want, but you have to listen to what they're saying and innovate based on that. And what he said was that in order to innovate, ask, therefore what? So, in that case, the customers were saying, what they were maybe frustrated with. And so then at Apple, they started saying, okay, so therefore what? So like with the iPhone, people, or the iPod, I guess I should say, people wanted a better solution to, having to take around the big old Walkmans or holding the jam box on your shoulder walking around, so they wanted a better portable music option. So therefore what? Oh, well, let's invent the iPod, so I thought that was a really great perspective and a great way to, broaden your perspective and your vision. And then I also came across a quote. It is a narrow mind which cannot look at a subject from various points of view. And that's from George Eliot. But, this whole crisis has basically accelerated so many transformations in all of our lives. I mean, there's so much. Just look at, 6 months ago, things that we were doing that seemed normal, and now we've accelerated and changed into a whole different version of normal and what we're doing. So, not that it's been fun, not that it's been easy, but in some ways we probably have improved the way we do things. And so I think it's really important to just continue to look at what is this broader perspective. And like Guy Kawasaki said, continue to ask, therefore what? That's how virtual lunch came about. I mean, within like 2 weeks when everything started shutting down, I started saying to myself, what can I do? I can't fix this whole problem, but what can I do? And I came up with the idea of these weekly virtual lunches so we could have a conversation. We could, I could share the resources, because I know you don't necessarily have time to read every article and do everything. So I'm doing it for you. I'm curating the resources. That's why I give you links every single week, because I want to be able to provide you with the best resources and the best tools so that you can be successful and you can get your business going again. We can all get the industry going again. And so that is my mission in doing virtual lunch. I also just this morning published the my latest podcast, which is adapting exhibits for the near, we hope, near, not permanent future. And so talking about the physical side of things, when we get back to doing trade shows, what do exhibits need to look like? How do they need to change? So I will put that up. So if you go to tradeshowinsights.com, you'll see that podcast right there at the top of the page. You can click, you can listen, get some new ideas about what you need to change, things for your design, your staffing, your promotions, all of those kinds of things that are going to need to change. So I'm going to continue to provide you with as many resources as I can. And, we're going to keep doing the virtual lunch every Tuesday. I'm probably going to take a couple of weeks off a little later in the summer just so I can have a break. But I want to be here for you. And if you have specific questions or topics that you'd like to see covered, please let me know that, and we will do that. I'm just going to check real quick and see if I've got everything covered. I think we did. I think we hit all the links. And thanks again to Marco for joining us from Italy. And we will be back next Tuesday with another topic and more resources for you right here at Virtual Lunch in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe. So thanks again, and we will see you next Tuesday. Bye.